Welcome to this Module 4 presentation, which will supplement and amplify some of the core concepts from the reading and other materials you have viewed thus far. In the next few slides, I will be sharing some commonly accepted definitions along with some alternate perspectives. As you follow along, consider the question, why do labels matter? Language is a dynamic system used by particular communities for communicating with others. The choices we make with language help us navigate and communicate about our shared experiences. This slide provides an example of the language output from two different students in math class. The choice of language used by Martin is an informal register and very colloquial, whereas Leslie uses terms that students would encounter and some teachers might expect in math classrooms. Both responses are valid. The key is to make sure students understand what your expectations are for language output and to help them access and produce the grade appropriate complex language of your discipline. Academic language is considered to be the language students need to access grade level content in school and to produce grade level equivalent responses. This term can be further defined by the words grammar and organizational strategies used to describe complex ideas, thinking processes, and abstract concepts. One problem with the term academic language is the implication that other representations of academic content using different registers is somehow not academic, as was demonstrated by the student language used in slide 4. Nelson Flores, a scholar whose work focuses on ratiolinguistics, points out the problem with a dichotomous framing of language. Namely, teachers become positioned as language police. Home language practices of students are seen as non-academic, and students then have to suppress a key part of their identities in classroom interactions. Flores asks the questions, what if we treated language minoritized children like gifted sociolinguists? In doing so, we would recognize the linguistic gifts that students bring and find ways to capitalize on those strengths in classroom settings. While we acknowledge the problems with the term academic language, the language of school is recognized as an important feature for all students to address. You may recall from your orientation that at the end of your teacher preparation program, you will submit an EdTPA, or Teacher Performance Assessment. In each of the content areas, there is an expectation that teacher candidates are able to address the language demands in planning, instruction, and assessment, specifically the communicative function, vocabulary and key phrases, syntax, and discourse patterns for your content area. Part 2 of this course, CI 5618, will introduce you to resources and opportunities to help prepare you for this task. One important takeaway from this exploration of language is to acknowledge that we often have a lot of invisible criteria in our practice, the things that we assess but have not explicitly taught. Oftentimes, we rely on background information and language features that come from non-school experiences, or we make assumptions about things we think students have learned previously. In the student language samples shared previously, the language choices in both of the student submissions should be accepted, unless the expectation for language use in the content were explicitly addressed and modeled. Invisible criteria can be difficult for everyone to see. As teachers, our expert blind spots often cause us to fail to see the very water in which we are swimming. Making deliberate attempts to see the water requires a concerted effort. The next module and part 2 of this course will provide you with tools and resources to help you notice and address language in ways that become visible to all students, and especially your multilingual students.